Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down to earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. And I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. To Down the Garden Path. Thank you for listening and joining me here on the show. And we're talking to Rebecca Boyar from West Coast Seeds. And I'm so excited to talk to somebody from West Coast Seeds and introducing you, if you don't already know all about them, introducing them to you. So I will start off. So Rebecca has an extensive and varied career in horticulture, spanning nearly 35 years. You don't look old enough to do that, but she began her journey managing a herb farm on the West Coast in the early 90s. From there, she transitioned to developing a nonprofit horticultural program and launching the first urban hydroponic training facility in Canada. Later, she worked as non-GMO commodity merchandiser at a small agricultural brokerage in southern Manitoba, both focusing on soybean and organic production. In 2018, she moved into the cannabis sector, like so many people did, right? Serving as a master grower and a Health Canada approved quality assurance processor in Quebec. Currently, Rebecca is a West Coast Seeds representative in Eastern Ontario, offering her horticulture expertise and knowledge in the non-GMO and organic seed market. And you're based in Quebec.
I am. Thank you. Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I live actually just over the border on the other side of from Ottawa. So you can imagine that when you're thinking of a climate. And I'm a homesteader myself, have been for 20 years out here in Quebec. So I've grown, oh, the gamut of West Coast seeds. It's difficult not to grow them when I have access to such wonderful seeds on a regular basis. I'll grow up to 18, 20 varieties of tomatoes in one season, or 12, 13 different kinds of peppers. So there's just so many to choose from. Yeah.
Excellent. And West Coast Seeds is a Canadian company, right? Based in Delta, BC.
Yes.
You want to tell me a little bit more about them?
Absolutely. West Coast Seeds, we've been around for a long time, 30 plus years. It was originally started in Vancouver, and is from about the mid 90s, has been owned by the Diamond family. And we have branched across Canada now. We started again in BC, but we now have a location as well in Cambridge, Ontario. So we are pushing our way across the country with our amazing seeds.
Excellent. And non-GMO and organic seeds.
Absolutely. Well, all of our seeds are 100% non-GMO, but we also have a lot of varieties that will have a symbol on it. You'll see our organic symbol. It's not our organic symbol, but the organic symbol. So we have a lot of varieties that are organic as well. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And I think that's very popular, right? Are you finding that that's a popular demand or?
Absolutely. In fact, we're even finding ourselves swaying more toward having more organic seed than just non-GMO.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they should be the same thing, but they're not, right?
They're not. No, unfortunately, they're not. Non-GMO, you know that they haven't been modified in any way. A lot of people confuse the difference between GMO and hybrids. There's a big difference there. So non-GMO would be genetically altered to produce, whereas a hybrid, it's just through breeding and interbreeding. Basically, it's like where all of our pets have come from. If you see a breed of dog, you know, let's say a
Multi-poo or
husky,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, or a German Shepherd. It's been it's from breeding that they've produced that breed of dog. It's the same with most of our vegetables and flowers and fruits and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. And it is kind of your season right now because people are buying seed and starting seeds. Not quite yet, depending when you listen to the show, right? But starting seeds have I think that that is more and more people are starting seeds inside and really being part of growing their own food.
That's what I'm finding. Even myself, I pretty much start everything from seed now, and it's not only because I have access. I having a 5 acre homestead, I need a lot of plants. There's a lot of things that our season isn't long enough, so you have to start them early. I've got a rack right beside me full of onions that I've started from seed and peppers, hot peppers. Um, Certain herbs, anything that takes a long time to start. My rule of thumb generally is 100 or more days. You should probably start it inside and start it soon. So
Okay.
I started my onions, let's see, mid-January. I started my
Oh,
onions, my
okay.
celery, things like that.
Hmm.
Hot peppers, I
Okay.
started by early February. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I always the most popular question I see online tends to be about tomatoes, and those ones you can't start too soon, right?
Yeah. No,
Those ones you do
that's
need to wait. So, but it's right. There are so in my mind, I'm like, don't start them yet. But it's not all seeds. There are plants that you should and flowers that you should start early, and there are other
absolutely.
things like tomatoes that you should wait a little bit because it's harder, right? It's harder to keep them happy inside.
It's hard to keep them happy. And you can imagine when you're starting in a little cell, they grow. And once you start transplanting, now you need exponential room, right? So your racks start to multiply. And yeah, that's a mistake that I often make. Even as a seasoned grower, I get really excited. I want to start
Yeah.
those seeds. And then I'm dealing with long, lanky tomatoes. Even though I use lights and things, they're growing. They're growing and they need the
Yeah.
space in the room. So I've learned to hold back a little bit on things like tomatoes. Yeah.
Okay. So what other so onions and you're talking about like the I'm trying to think because I think of the green stalked onions and then the you're talking about the large onions in the ground, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, my storage onions. I like
Storage
it. It's
onions.
great to do things from sets. A lot of people will buy onion sets, so the little starts. Those are great, but onions are much more productive if you start them from seed. But our season is not nearly long enough. If I planted my onion seeds outside, I would end up at the end of in fall, at the end of the season, with onion sets, with the little that I would have to plant the following season. So I do start all of my onions inside pretty early on to get them going. And a lot of people ask me, why do I start onions? There's certain varieties you can't get as sets. I like my Walla Wallas. I like my Alyssa Craigs. I like my, or sorry, Elsa Craigs. Just there's a lot of varieties of that you can't get as starts. So
Right. And more than you because we only really get one kind in the grocery store, right? Like the yellow onions in the bag. Like so from seed there you have so much more variety.
yeah, you have a lot more variety. Like I said, my Walla Wallas, I love the sweet onions. They're so nice to grow on. And yeah, and even some of my storage onions, I'll start them as well. My nice reds, things like that. Yeah, or leeks. Leeks are another thing that you want to start pretty early. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Shallots as well. So
Okay.
or shallots,
So yeah,
however
so
you
it
pronounce
seems
it,
to all
shallots.
be in that family. Is there something else, like flower wise? Is there something else? I think it's lavender, right? It's tricky to grow from seed.
It is. It can be tricky to grow from seed, but if you don't branch out and try, you're going to miss all those really interesting varieties of lavender. The blue spear and the lavender steep and all the really neat varieties of lavender. Plus, if you're an avid grower, it's the thrill of making it happen, getting it to
Right.
germinate. That's exciting as well. So yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So what else? So seed, vegetable and flower seeds, of course, that you sell, and you sell them all across Canada. Now, can you, because I know there's always restrictions between Canada and the US, can you supply into the US or you just stay in Canada?
We just stay in Canada at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah, West Coast Seeds is in Canada at this point, and serving Canadians. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Because yeah, there's just too it's harder to go back and forth with seeds. I know I've been on garden tours where we can't, you have to be careful. So, and that's fine. That's we're protecting, everybody's protecting their plants, right? Because
Absolutely.
cross-pollination and all of that. So that's
Yeah.
good. Excellent, excellent. You also have, so this is what, sparked me wanting to talk to you, although I wanted to talk to West Coast seeds for a while. But in addition to vegetable and flower seeds, you also have lawn mixes.
We do. Really beautiful selection, and we just put out a new launch. We rebranded our lawn solutions into some nice new packaging to excite the customers. But one I think that you wanted to talk about today was the grub resistant. So yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Would you like me to talk a little bit about that now?
Yes. How did that come about? Or yes, please tell me more.
Absolutely. So it's actually our grub resistant blend is the same blend or pretty close to the same blend that we use as our chafer beetle blend, which you probably won't recognize because we don't have a problem with chafer beetles out here. Basically, it's British Columbia along the coast. They're the ones that deal with it. So the city of Richmond, in conjunction with West Coast, helped to develop this they call it chafer beetle resistant blend, but it turns out that it works as well for grubs. So what happens is grubs, they like to the larvae. The larvae is they like to lay the larvae under. Sorry. I like to lay the larvae under the thatch that grows. And thatch is that thick, dead undergrowth that happens from
Hmm.
your basic lawn, your Kentucky
Yeah.
bluegrass, yeah. It's what everybody's out raking off in the spring. And so they really like that layer for larvae. And it's not the larvae that's actually the problem. It's the animals and the birds and things that come and dig up and eat that larvae. So they'll dig and leave holes in your lawns. So skunks, oh, you
Yeah.
name it, you name it.
Raccoons. Yeah.
Yeah, birds, all kinds of things will come along and dig them up, which seems like a really great thing because they're sort of helping keep that balance. But it does leave holes in people's lawns. So they're not
Hmm.
keen on that. So our grub resistant blend is it's made up of 95% tall fescue, the turf
Okay.
type of tall fescue, and 5%, I believe, of micro clover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tall
So
fescue,
not that like because our sod is Kentucky blue, right? And it's not as strong of a grass.
yeah, it's strong, and again, it'll create that thatch that they're looking for, the grubs are looking for. So tall fescue does not produce a thatch, and that's one of the keys. But it's very grass-like. I know it's a
Okay.
grass, but it's very similar to your Kentucky bluegrass as far as a lawn would go in appearance and feel. So it's a really great alternative. Tall fescue is it's a hardy perennial, fairly hardy.
Hmm.
I believe, like you can grow it into Manitoba, but I'm not quite sure how far north. Some of the studies that I've read is Brandon, Manitoba is sort of as far north as you would want to grow or use tall fescue. It's drought tolerant. It's partially drought tolerant because it has roots that go to a depth of up to 6 feet. So it's really, yeah, so it can go look for that water, really anchor itself. It's also heat tolerant, does well in heat. So whereas grass will die back and look yellow, and yeah, it
Go
goes
dormant.
dormant.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't have that with the tall fescue. It thrives really well in full sun, but it doesn't mind partial shade. Not full shade. I always like to make that clear because a lot
Yeah.
of people will ask me after my workshops and seminars, can I grow this under my cedar hedge? Not a lot wants to grow under your cedar hedge. So yeah,
Exactly.
unfortunately, full shade, it's not too keen on. Um, it germinates really, really quickly as far as the seed goes, which is nice. So you'll have grass growing very quickly, or you'll have, your lawn started very quickly. And it does well in poor soil conditions. It's really
Hmm.
adaptable and does well in almost any kind of soil condition, but
Okay.
it does really well in poor soil conditions. Low pH is okay. It doesn't mind acidic soil. So around those cedar hedges and any
Mm.
conifers that you might have, it might
Mhm.
do a little bit better than a grass will. Um,
Okay. Yeah, and when I'm reading is it says that it actually is better to the blend that you have is to apply it on bare topsoil? Like, so when you've versus overseeding.
Yes, yeah. I would almost always recommend if you're looking for a nice groomed lawn, that I would go with fresh topsoil with, yeah. But I have had success with overseeding. So
Okay.
yeah, you can do it. I wouldn't discourage someone from trying. Because here's the problem. I mean, who wants to live with their yard being dirt for too long, before?
Yeah.
So a lot of people will ask, can I overseed? And I would suggest yes, you can, but I would prepare the ground as much as possible first. So one of the things I would do is dethatch as
Yeah.
much as possible, dethatch your existing lawn, so that the seed can make contact with the soil as much as possible, because that layer of thatch will hold that seed up away from the soil. So a good hard dethatch is good, and a nice heavy sow. And then the one of the biggest tricks is don't feed your grass. Your grass will die back if you're not feeding it, and the tall fescue and the microclover will start to take over.
Ah, okay. And now do they need as much, does that do the tall fescue need as much fertilizing as like the Kentucky bluegrass?
Not at all. In fact, that's what the microclover is kind of there for. So I wouldn't really feed it at all. The microclover, well, clover in general, it's a legume, so it's a nitrogen fixer. So that 5% will help to build up the nitrogen in the soil, and it'll help to feed your tall fescue along with itself.
Wonderful. So it kind of does like accomplishes a lot, really.
Well, that's the whole idea behind our entire lawn solutions selections is low maintenance, low water requirements, minimal, if not no fertilizing, little to no mowing, that kind of
Mhm.
idea. So one
Yeah.
nice thing about the tall fescue is if you really want it to look like a manicured lawn, you can mow it. I don't like to mow. I always recommend to everyone not to mow their grass too low, too short. I
Yes,
know people
I do
love to
too.
do that because, who wants to mow all the time? So people
Yeah.
don't, but as you know, it will handle drought conditions and all sorts of situations much better if you haven't shaved it right down to the ground. So I do encourage people to keep their lawns a little bit, raise that mower, keep your lawn a little bit longer.
Hmm.
But definitely you can keep it at a 2.5 to 3 inch height, and it looks beautiful, nice and rich, lush, full. Or you can let it grow on to, I wouldn't let it get to its 12-inch height, that it has the potential to get up to 12 inches. And that's
Okay.
talking seed stalks and things.
Right.
If you keep it on the longer side, I find it looks like a dewy meadow in the morning. Like it looks very
Mm.
soft. It's a really lovely looking grass. But as far as I'm concerned, it's as close to um, being able to maintain a manicured looking lawn as possible. Yeah,
Okay.
I really
Okay.
like it for that. The other thing I really like about tall fescue is it's really tolerant to salt, to salinity. So really great for our Canadian curbsides, where
Oh,
we're
yeah.
dumping salt on the streets like crazy, right? In the winter,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
hard on the grass, very hard on everything that's near the curb. Um, and I don't know what's going on in Pickering, but for us out here, I don't think it was last summer. It was the summer before. So June 2023, I guess. In June 2023, Ottawa passed a bylaw allowing homeowners to they can dig up the boulevards or the right of ways in
Oh,
front of their home.
really?
Yeah, and they're allowed to plant, but they're very specific. They don't want any hardscaping. They don't really want vegetable gardens and things, because you can imagine with plowing sidewalks and other things, those things wouldn't survive anyway. So they don't
Right.
really want hardscaping and stuff, but they're really encouraging people to plant things like the lawn solutions or wildflowers. I was really even impressed because one of the city councilors, the bill with, I believe, was only for 3/4 of a meter height for plants as a maximum. And one of the city councilors recognized that things like poppies will grow up to a meter. So he raised it. to a meter tall.
Oh,
Yeah, being the
excellent.
limit. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's great. Well,
yeah.
it's good to know when there's another gardener on your in your corner, right?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I often call those a health strip. So that's wonderful. I don't know if we have a bylaw preventing us from doing it. I have a yard where I don't have the sidewalk and I have a corner house, so I go right to the curb anyway
Yes.
with my garden. And I'm trying to work on some of the boulevards across the street with my neighbors. When I have extra plants now, I'm like trying to get rid of, especially the tiny, when it's just a tiny piece, it's so not worth mowing and it's so hard to keep it alive
Yeah.
that I think plants do better, really.
Absolutely. And I think that was their ideas. It was quite a few years ago that the city has made homeowners responsible for that strip of property in front of them, the boulevard or the easement
Mhm.
that they have. And so I think this is a way of addressing that. To put in low maintenance, you're not having to water, you're not having to fertilize, and minimal mowing, if any mowing at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so in addition to the oh my gosh, grub resistant, I also see the alternative lawn wildflower mix.
Yes. Yes.
That looks exciting because there is, grass has kind of become controversial, right?
Yeah.
There's although I feel like that type of grass where you're not expected to water it and you're not expected to fertilize it and you're hardly expected to mow it. I think that's a better way, a better, solution than the high needs lawn. But something like the growing a lawn with wildflowers in the mix.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I like about the alternative lawn blend is it's short. It's quite
Okay.
short. So all the flowers in the mix stay relatively short, just like a lawn. So I really, really like it. It's very different from our other wildflower mixes where you will get up to a meter tall. It's funny because with our other wildflower mixes, sometimes customers will say, well, I don't know which one to plant. And I go, plant them all, have fun, just spread them out. But the only one I always say to them, maybe I wouldn't integrate that one in with the other ones is the alternative lawn blend because they're so short. They'll just get lost. They'll get lost in the beauty of the meter tall poppies and stuff like that. So, but
Oh.
I'm actually a sucker for the alternative lawn blend. I love the little 5 spot in there and that they're just gorgeous, gorgeous little flowers.
Now, are they reseeding themselves so that they come back every year, or how does that?
Well, there's perennials involved, but yes, if you
Okay,
let them seed out for sure, you'll have them coming back every year. And I wouldn't hesitate every once in a while to resow,
okay,
again, you can do that overseeding. I like to do that until I can build it up and it's nice and thick and bushy.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so no need to mow. So then that would be like a no mow lawn.
Absolutely. It's up to you. I mean, you could, if you're feeling it's getting too tall, you can mow it down a bit. Again, if you shave it right down, they're not going to come back. You have to
Right.
leave a bit of length, obviously. But yeah, minimal mowing. I would refer to it as minimal mowing for
Excellent.
sure.
Oh, that's great. Two really exciting things. And I know we're talking about grass, but still, as opposed to vegetables and fruits and flowers. So no, I just wanted to, I think it's great that people are addressing the issue, that the industry is addressing the issue of the grubs. Because actually, as much as you were talking about the grubs being annoying with the animals and stuff, I think it's really the Japanese beetles that then hatch, right? And that eat our flowers and roses and regilias and the things that they love, that really, as frustrating gardeners. So to know that there is something that could be an extra help for that is wonderful.
And that's exactly how I would look at it. I don't, as well as I do, you have to attack a problem from every angle. That's
Yes.
really what you need to do. So this would be one of those inputs.
Hmm. Yes. And I think something like this also is not necessarily for somebody who has like a huge lawn or acreage, right? I think it's for the people with a smaller lawn, that, maybe, townhome, like, what I mean? You're not a gardener and you want something that's easier to look after. Then I think that's a great thing to strive for, right? Or to up a product to use.
Absolutely. Well, that and I find especially something like the tall fescue, the grub resistant, as much as we might want a garden for our front lawn. We sometimes have neighbors that aren't keen on that, or we might have restrictions in the area that we're
The
living.
neighborhood, yeah. Mhm.
And this would be a good alternative to grass. So it looks like grass, but it's not grass.
Now, if you were to let them, like, is there a bit of pollinators in that? In that, if you did let them go to seed, although they probably look a little on the messier side, right? The grass seed.
For the grub resistant, or you're just talking any of the lawn solutions?
No, the grub resistant, but
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much, like the maybe the micro clover, but yeah, not a lot of pollinators are attracted to grass seeds so much, or
yeah,
grass, the flowers of grass.
yes.
But but our alternative lawn blend is great. We also have our bee turf blend, which is to
Oh,
attract pollinators. So we have a beautiful selection of different kinds of lawn solutions, depending on what your goal is.
oh, wonderful. I missed the bee one. That's great. Okay. That's the thing. It you get lost, right? So you start looking for one thing and then you go down the rabbit hole. So beware, listeners,
Absolutely.
that you're going to love the website and you're going to go down a rabbit hole. Um,
Absolutely.
so you are shipping across Canada. So the best for people to go to the website, but you do sell in stores as well, right? Garden centers here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would check out your local garden center if you want. Our website, as you said, like that's one of the things I really love about West Coast, because that's partially where my passion lies, which you can see from my history in my career is education and just sharing information with one another. That's actually one of the things that I love about gardeners and the gardening community. They're so different than so many other communities. I can have someone who's been gardening for 5 years talking to someone who's been gardening for 40, but the person gardening who's only been gardening for 5 years still they don't feel belittled or lessened by the
Yeah.
experience that this other and the gardener that's been gardening for 40 years is so interested in hearing that other person's experiences and taking that in. So that's one of the things I do love about this community. And West Coast is just a key player in that. They are so great with their website, educational materials. We not only are one of the last few seed companies that even has a paper catalog, because I think I was telling you, like, this is how I schedule myself. I'm still a paper person. I like my pen. Um, and West Coast still offers a paper catalog. We have all
Oh.
kinds of printed materials that we have at most of the garden centers, companion planting guides, all kinds of things. But our website is just a wealth of knowledge. If there's something that you need to know, it's easy to find.
That is wonderful. I love the best. So you've kind of got a best, although the bestseller category has 970 things in it, but
I know, I know, I know.
so it's not the top five,
No,
Rebecca. It's
it's
not the top
definitely not the
five.
top five. Absolutely. No,
Oh
and
my
if you're
gosh.
looking for a store, go on our website. Like if you're looking for a store that carries our seed, go on our website and there is a store locator. If you're like, hey, who's
Excellent.
carrying the seeds in my area? Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, is there anything else you exciting happening that you would like to share, or anything else that seeds that you're excited about?
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. so, so I am definitely a vegetable person, much more than a flower person. I live out in the country on a lake, so I don't do a lot of flower planting, a few things, but I mostly focus on vegetables. I have some absolute favorites, and we're getting more and more every year. This year was really challenging. When I'm trying to restock my retail partners racks, so the stores racks, very challenging this year. We've added 140 new varieties this year alone. And yeah, it's really hard to choose and decide what you want. And 9 times out of 10, I tend to put the things that I feel I've had a really good experience with. If
Mhm.
I haven't had a good experience with something, I don't tend to put it on the rack. But yeah, I definitely have some favorites that I love, especially the tomatoes and the cucumbers, and we have some great selection.
And I think that's very valuable, right? Because I think that's one thing gardeners are good at. I think, as listening and learning from each other. And what works for you is I want to try that as opposed to something that nobody has ever grown and I don't know what's going to happen with it. Right. So,
Absolutely. Or
yeah.
looking for those, like I find I've been a grower in the prairies in Manitoba. I've been a grower in British Columbia, and I've been a grower out here. And I can tell you, we do deal with a lot of disease, lots of pathogens out here, lots of blights, verticulum, fusariums, all of those kinds of problems. Um, so I do tend to look for F1 varieties or varieties that have been bred to be a little bit more resistant to some of the diseases that we deal with out here. Um, it's hard to let go of your diehard favorites, but sometimes if you do, you discover some new favorites.
Ah, that is good. Good to know. Now, can I ask you a question about loofah?
Absolutely. I'll see if I can answer it.
Yeah. Well, now do you have to like when do you start those? Like just should I have started those already?
I would start it soon. Yes, they're a
Okay.
little slower to germinate. You have to be a little bit patient with them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I've heard that they kind of are almost like vine-like. Like, will it grow?
Absolutely. They get huge. You only need one or two plants and yeah, they'll take over if you they'll take over if you let them. They like to sprawl for sure.
Okay. And how many gourds? Like it's a gourd, right? Or a
Yep.
squash?
Yep. It's like a long, yeah, they almost look like long zucchinis or
Okay.
yeah.
How many would you get per plant?
Oh, that's a tough one because it can,
Okay.
well, I mean, it can depend. It can depend
Yeah.
on the area you're in, the climate,
Mhm.
all of
The
those kinds of
summer.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on
Yeah.
average, I had a friend who grew one last year and she harvested 30
Oh my gosh. Because did you see there's stuff on Instagram about that using them as
birdhouses.
natural like
Oh,
dishcloths.
yeah,
Yeah, and scrubbers
absolutely.
and stuff because once it's done, like it's just going to biodegrade. People are just promoting that kind of thing, and I thought, what? Because who needs 30 loofahs? But so right, so like it's always intimidating. I've always been fascinated, but the thought of having that many is kind of like intimidating. But then to know that you could use them around the house, and
Absolutely.
isn't that a cool thing? Like I didn't
Scrubbers.
know.
I've seen people build little bird houses out of them and bird nests and things. Yeah, really neat.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I only have a little area to grow, but still we like to try things. So yeah. So
absolutely.
I think I'm going to give that a shot this year. So I will get on it though. I will.
Lots of times what I'll do with my squash because they take up a lot of valuable, they sprawl, take up a lot of valuable garden space. I'll go vertical. So yeah, so if you can
Okay.
do that, sometimes what I'll
Yes.
do is I'll build potato stack. Have you ever seen a potato stack? You
Yes.
take a cattle panel or like chicken wire, make a round, and the first year I tried it, I lined the inside with straw like you're supposed to, and then you backfill with soil. Um, I didn't like that at all. I found it very hard to keep it hydrated. So the next year, I took out all the straw and instead I lined the inside of the wire with geotech, with landscape fabric to
Oh,
hold the
okay.
soil in, right? Because it's
Okay.
like it was almost like I built a big fabric pot, but they're about 4 feet tall. And then I was able to cut holes in the sides of the fabric and I planted my plants in and they were able to trail out.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
go
Yeah,
vertical.
well, because we have just a little strip against the fence and we have a pool. So,
Beautiful.
but we've had hung chains. So
Nice.
we've had cucumbers grow up the chains. We've had watermelons, the baby sugar baby watermelon grow up the chains.
Nice.
So yeah, so when I saw that when somebody said that it grows like a vine, I was like, "Oh, because I need to be able to go vertical because we don't have the space for it to be
Exactly.
right."
Brilliant. That's
So yeah,
brilliant. Especially,
yes,
with a groomed yard with a pool and everything. Brilliant. You can still grow
yes.
food.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it was my son who he was 19. He's 27 now. So this is a number of years ago. He said, because we did the typical river rock with ornamental grasses, when you've got 18 inches before the 3 foot of the pool. And he goes, Mom, can I remove all that river rock and plant a vegetable garden? And I'm like, yeah, well, river rock is you take it out one at a time, right? It's not easy, but he did it and he's grown a number of things. So yeah, so it's been
Fantastic.
fun. Yeah, I did put last year we had a harder year vegetable wise last year. We weren't as successful. So I ended up planting some pollinators back there because I felt like I all my garden is in the front yard and in the back there really isn't anything. So I think that might have been part of the problem. So yeah, so I still want to plant some vegetables, but it's also getting some flowers and stuff back there too. So yeah,
Sounds
well, that
amazing.
is exciting. It is exciting. So I'm so excited that I got to talk to you, and I know our listeners are going to be fascinated by the grub resistant lawn seed, chafer resistant too, if you're from the West Coast. And I liked the idea of the bird lawn and the oh no, bird. You said bee, right? The
Bee
bee
turf. Yeah.
bee turf and yeah, and the wildflower turf. So I think that is exciting, but I know it is prime time for people to start their vegetable seeds. So you heard it right here from Rebecca that you need to get going on your hot peppers. And what was the other thing you said? The onions,
Uh,
all the onion
onions,
family, right?
leeks, hot peppers, eggplants are another good one. Yeah, yeah, you call Brussels sprouts. Yeah, lots of things
Excellent.
need to be started early enough. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And you can check out for West Coast Seeds at your local garden center or check out the website and they just send ship directly, right?
They do. If and Most of the garden centers as well that carry our seeds, if there's something you're looking for that they don't have, you can ask them to order it in for you if you like.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
that's
great.
an option that I always make
Yeah.
available to our retail partners.
Wonderful. Well, that is great. Well, I'm excited that we got to know a little bit more about West Coast Seeds and support this great Canadian company that's been around for a long time. And I know you had mentioned about the T-shirt to say yes, even though it says West Coast Seeds, you can grow it out here
Can
in
grow it here.
Ontario. That's right, you can grow it here. So don't let the name fool you. So let's emphasize that. And yeah, and is there anything else you'd like to talk about as we wind down the show?
Just that the experience that I've had with West Coast Seeds. So I came from the agricultural industry, and it was actually one of the reasons my husband and I decided to run off and start our own homestead. We felt that food security was very important. I didn't really realize that companies could be ethical, and I have found West Coast Seeds to be incredibly ethical, which I find I'm very proud to work with West Coast Seeds. I really like that on all of their packages, they have not only a lot of information about the variety, but you'll see a germination rate. That's our test. That's not the germination rate for this variety. That's the germination for the seed that's in this package. So we make sure all of the seed that goes into our packages is premium, high quality seed so that you're successful.
Wonderful. Well, that is great. And I think a lot of people will love to know that you have a paper catalog.
Absolutely. You'll find it in the garden centers, or you can request one from West Coast Seeds.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that is good to know. Well, thank you, Rebecca, so much for joining me. And it was so nice to meet you, even though it's online. It was still so nice to meet you. And I hope we can talk again soon about yeah, growing vegetables and your homestead. I think we can have a whole show on homesteading.
I'd love to do that sometime.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of Down the Garden Path, and we'll see you next time.